acknowledging that the land on which we gather, and which the Township of Severn operates, is part of the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe. For thousands of years, Indigenous peoples have been inhabiting and caring for the land. In particular, we acknowledge the territory of the Ojibwe or Chippewas peoples. This territory is covered by the Lake Simcoe Treaty 16 and the J. Collins land purchase. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land, and by doing so, give our respect to its first inhabitants. We'll just have a moment of reflection, please. Thank you. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? None. Public meetings, hearings, none. We do have one presentation, and I just read, please be advised that in accordance with council's procedural bylaw, no decision will be made this morning on the delegations. Council will do one of the following: refer the matter to staff for report, refer the matter to a future budget deliberation, or take no action. And our first presenter is Miss Stephanie Dell, 3719 Agnew Road, requesting for exemption to bylaw number 2020-62, Kennel licensing requirements. Welcome, Ms. Dell. We'll just give you 1 second. I see member Brennan is having struggles with his computer. Let's just give him 1 second, and then we can begin with your presentation.
Just be a moment. It's just
we can tell. I can. They're just about there. David's with them here. So
thank you.
One minute.
Less than that. Less than
coming up right now. Are you there?
just joining.
Just joining now.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Morning, Councilor Brennan.
Morning, Councilor Brennan.
Good morning. Thank you for your patience.
You're welcome. Okay, Stephanie, you're up. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Mayor Mike Burkett, Deputy Mayor Judith Cox, board counselors, and administration. I hope you're all doing well today. My name is Stephanie Dell, and I'm seeking a resolution regarding the pet sitting portion of my dog care business. I would firstly like to thank you immensely for your time today and for listening to my concerns. I'm sure you have larger fish to fry, but I have no other option but to bring this to your attention to seek a resolution so I can continue business. I've poured my heart and soul into my dog business, and I'm so passionate about it and absolutely heartbroken for what has transpired. A bit about my business, Northern Positivity Dog Care. I started this small business about a year ago to fill the need for dog care that commuters, vacationers, retirees, so many other dog owners seek. When I moved to Washago in 2021, I was commuting to Barrie daily for work and found myself either stuck in traffic, stuck at work, or in need of groceries, all which lengthened my already long 8-hour day, which turned into a 9, 10, 11-hour day. With my dogs at home while I was at work, this posed a problem. I couldn't possibly leave them that long without a potty break or a walk, so I researched to find someone offering this service, and I found no one that could fill this need. Shortly after, I went on maternity leave. I had my son and left my corporate job. With childcare adding one more obstacle to the distance and the long days commuting, now I would require care for my son and my dogs. So I decided not to return to work and fill this need by opening Northern Positivity Dog Care so I could offer this service to others in the same situation. I offered dog walking, drop-in visits, social training, new puppy care, babysitting, and more services. My clients are nurses, doctors, emergency service workers, OPP, retired veterans, or commuters, anyone in need for their furry-friendly member while they're away. My services were unique because being working from home, I was available 24/7, which allowed me to be completely flexible and on my client's schedule. So no rushing to pick up their dogs at closing time, could work around vacations, 6 a.m. flights, or 2 a.m. pickups. I could offer dogs much needed mental stimulation, playtime, and social time with a few friends rather than being stuck at home alone. Every dog was comfortable and excited each and every visit in my home, which was an amazing no stress environment for both the dogs and the owners. My home was their home away from home. I could also give individual attention to each and every dog, especially with those with separation anxiety, lack of social skills, or nervousness, those that would not do well in a kennel environment. A kennel is not an ideal environment for every dog, and it's not ideal for many owners either. Overall, the response from the community was overwhelming. It is very clear that this service was much needed for a small town like ours, and I found my schedule fill up quite quickly and actually had to start a wait list and post not accepting new clients, explaining to everyone that I was not accepting new clients. This is because my restriction has always been to limit the number of dogs in order to stay within severance bylaw and offer this small service. I never received any negative feedback, no complaints, or any issues at all while operating. I had only received positive and kind words, thank you cards, appreciation from clients who've now become like family. When I was forced to close, almost every single client had offered endless support and letters in hopes that this could be resolved. To quote from a few of the letters, Nicole wrote, "Stephanie has a genuine love for animals, which is evident in the way she interacts with dogs, treating them as her own. I choose Stephanie's dog sitting service as she never exceeds 4 dogs at a time in her care and ensures a safe and comfortable environment inside her personal home and fenced yard for playtime and exercise." Another client, Stephanie, wrote, "I find Stephanie Dell to be a very responsible person who truly enjoys caring for animals. Stephanie has had the responsibility of watching our dog Neela in her home while my husband and I go away on vacation. She's very caring and loves playing with our dog. Stephanie's home has been a home away from home for Neela." Randy wrote, "Stephanie's approach to her in-home pet sitting is unique from the rest, and this is why we feel it's so fortunate to have found her. She truly cares about these dogs, and by limiting how many dogs she cares for, allows her to give them attention and the great experience of being in her care. She's very diligent in maintaining that level of care, and my dog benefits from that." I had a fancy website and Facebook page with a large following, all of which now are removed and on hold until I can resume business. And since the cease operations letter from the township was issued, my clients have all been contacted and canceled, some of who are now faced with travel and trip cancellations and have no dog care for their loved one, or continue to work their 12-hour shift with no one to rely on to care for their puppy. For some, they are relying on neighbors or family for dog care, which is the same service that I was offering. So for some, a kennel is not an option on the table, and they're awaiting my news of reopening. The economic impact of a small local business like mine could be grand, as I had travelers visiting Severn, often staying at nearby resorts, who all do not allow pets. They would reach out in desperate need of dog care so that they could resume their vacation, go on that fishing trip on Lake Couchiching, ski at the nearby ski hills, visit the beaches, or go golfing for the day. I sincerely hope the township can see the value of my services on a larger economic scale. As I stated in my delegation letter, my only intention has ever been to operate within the parameters set out by Bylaw 2020-62 and offer dog care and in-home pet sitting for up to 4 dogs, which is Severn's legal limit. I never could have imagined I would be issued a ticket and forced to cease operations for my small home business, nor would I even have to validate or contest for babysitting a few dogs. I operated in good faith within the current bylaw and found no definition or law or guidance that speaks to providing temporary care or visiting of dogs on your property in my primary residence. My small home service simply does not fit the scope, nor do I see the need for a commercial kennel license in my situation. A kennel license would allow a massive difference of 46 additional dogs and a chaotic atmosphere. It is a kiddie pool versus the Pacific Ocean, and I want to stay in my quiet, stress-free kiddie pool. I do not see any reason why I should need a kennel license for what I'm offering. There's no difference in the environmental impact for owning 4 dogs or babysitting 4 dogs. There's the same amount of poop. The visiting dogs are all licensed to their respective owners and in my temporary care for a temporary amount of time. There's so many benefits to the dogs and to the owners for this type of flexible, customized service. The economy benefits by bringing in new business and travelers, such that many people use Rover and other web services. Many locals are also offering this service as well. And I believe my home simply cannot be considered a kennel. I'd like to sincerely thank Severn's administration thus far for retracting the ticket and fine after I was given the opportunity to explain. Thank you. However, I'm still left with the issue of how to move forwards in a manner that's reasonable for Severn and myself as a local business owner. I do not want to violate anything, and I want to play by the rules. Hence my transparency from the beginning. In closing, I please seek your encouragement and support in order to continue to offer this much needed service to residents. I think it reasonable to ask for an exemption for requiring a kennel license for my case in order to host 4 dogs on my personal property in my home for any reason, all who are licensed to their respective owners for a temporary stay with a maximum of 30 days. I thank you all once again for your time and hope we can reach a reasonable resolution. Please do not hesitate to reach out with any further questions. Thank you.
Unmute. I didn't unmute. Thank you, Ms. Dell, for the presentation. Do any members of council have any questions for Ms. Dell? Councillor McIntyre, did you? Oh, Councillor Taylor, go ahead.
Thank you very much for your transparency. And I think we should refer this to staff and hopefully come up with a resolution there. I think since it doesn't exceed 4 dogs, it shouldn't be a kennel. So I think this is a good thing. It's an economic thing. It's a home business, and hopefully we can work something out with you. And I appreciate your presentation this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Councillor McIntyre.
Thank you, Chair. You need to mute, Phil. I quite agree with our friend, Member Taylor. I don't see this as a kennel in any way. I think a staff report to bring some clarity in from the bylaw perspective. Perhaps we could amend the bylaw in this particular case. I know we're not in favor of amending every bylaw, but I feel that this is a rare situation where Stephanie is offering a pretty needful service. So for me, I would go along with Member Taylor's recommendation for staff report and send it away and bring it back at soonest available time.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Cox.
Yeah, through the chair. I too agree, but I would like some timelines on when it's coming back. This is her business, and if she doesn't have her business, then it's a whole month or 2 months, and she's, I mean, no offense, I had a dog and I understand totally what you're saying, but I think that this is something that we need to do ASAP and either decide if we're going to change it or fix it or allow Stephanie to have this, because I'm very sure there's people out there that have 4 dogs or look after dogs. So I would like it if we could just ensure that this is going to come back quickly, because I don't think it should take a lot of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Minnings.
Thank you, and nice to meet you, Stephanie. I just want to thank you for bringing this to our attention as council and submitting it on the agenda and doing your delegation, because were it not for this, I would not have known that this was your experience. And I absolutely agree with my other council members. The bylaw, there's room to clarify the bylaw so that someone like you who has up to 4 dogs and has them overnight is able to do that and collect money at the same, because I really don't understand the enforcement that was taken, although I am glad to see that the fine was rescinded at a minimum. So I think that what you've done, in light of our paralleled commitment of this council to economic development, to supporting business and industry, and not just supporting it, but enhancing it and attracting it to Severn Township, which we've spent hours, if not days on just recently, that this is one more business that's operating in Severn, and you've brought something to our attention that I think we can do. I know Member McIntyre mentioned that it was a rare situation, but I'd actually say I don't believe it's as rare, as I don't believe you're the only person who looks after pets. And I don't really, I'm having difficulty understanding how the fact that because you're collecting money for your service takes it over the tipping point. So I too am very much in favor of doing what we can to make sure that people who operate home-based dog care services, whether they're during the day or overnight, are able to run a business, make an income, and do that. So I am very much looking forward to it. I would, although I do want the bylaw to come back for amendment, I would like to see it not wait a month, and because there is a loss of income that this person's experiencing, and I'm very cognizant to that until we have a bylaw amended, I don't see a breach of the current bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Madam Clerk.
Thank you. So staff would be pleased to report back as reasonably quickly as we can. Well, I appreciate that council would like this to be a straightforward, simple matter. We're dealing with zoning and we're dealing with licensing. They're 2 very different things. So the Director of Planning and I are fully prepared to look at this as quickly as we can. We're hoping, fingers crossed, that the earliest we can potentially get back to you is February corporate or March council. We physically do not have the time to get this done between now and then because we do have other matters and staff reports that are coming to agendas already that are already underway, and staff have committed time to. So, and to be honest, I won't be here for a week. So there's some lost time there as well to get this reviewed and brought back. So, we're going to do our darnest to, and there wouldn't be a delay if we bring it to February corporate or March council, because any bylaw amendments would have to come to March council anyways. So we're hoping to bring something to March.
Thank you.
That is our goal.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Cox.
I guess, oh, sorry, through the chair to the clerk. I guess I'm having a little trouble with this zoning thing because there are many home occupations that do not have to be rezoned because they're getting money. Like people babysit, people have knitting classes, people have they're all coming in and out. So there's where I'm having a problem here.
And we can speak to that in the staff report when it comes back, unless the director wants to speak to it right now. I should note, we do have kennels that are licensed that are for this number of dogs or less already in Severn. So we have folks that have gone through the existing licensing process to get a kennel license for kennels that are this number or less. We have a handful that are bigger, but we do have existing kennels that are going through the appropriate processes, zoning, inspections, and everything, to obtain a kennel license for the number of dogs that Ms. Dell is requesting. So okay. And we have existing licensed businesses that are also impacted by any proposed change that we're looking to do. So we have to make sure that we're reviewing this as a holistic manner, and unfortunately not just as a one-off for Ms. Dell. We have to make sure that whatever change we bring in is going to work for across the board.
Well, just Deputy Mayor Cox, just one sec, just before we speak, because we're going to get into a debate here. Before we get into a full-fledged debate, Madam Clerk, what I'm understanding now is there's zoning that's involved and there's a bylaw, but does council have the authority, based on your staff report that you're going to bring back, have we got the ability to change that criteria based on what I'm hearing?
Thank you. That says.
So we have the, through you, to your worship. So we have the ability to change what's in the licensing bylaw. This is where the director and I need to go back and look at our existing zoning bylaw, because as council is very aware, in order to change the definition of what's permitted under home occupation under zoning bylaw would require a full zoning bylaw amendment process. So we need to look at what council's given us direction to look at, which is the 4 dogs or less piece, and come back to you with a report.
Thank you. So I think in the essence of time, and rather than having a full-fledged debate, and I think let's have the staff report come back. And I think, Madam Clerk, what I'm hearing from members of council is they would like this to happen. So whatever needs to be in that report to make this happen so that Ms. Dell can move forward with her business, I think that's what I'm hearing that council would like to see. And Deputy Mayor Cox, sorry to interrupt, but go ahead.
So thank you. The other one I want to say is, so what if she has 2 dogs?
And I guess that will be all in the staff report. So
no, I know that, but I'm thinking if she's allowed, she would have a business.
So if the bylaw is amended to permit 4 dogs or less without needing a license, then if the homeowner had 2 dogs, and they would be permitted to have 2 dogs to board. If they, and Ms. Dell and I have spoken about this.
Okay, that's fine then. Don't worry about it. That's fine.
Yeah, we've spoken about this.
Okay,
she's very aware of that mathematical calculation.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Minnings.
Thank you. This is to the clerk. Can you tell me where specifically in the zoning bylaw that you referenced that this particular business is the one that you and the Director of Planning are going to be looking at?
I might ask the Director of Planning to speak to that, because she knows that bylaw much better than I do.
Thanks.
Good morning, Ms. Woodrow. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you through you, Mayor Burkett, to Councillor Minnings. So certainly our zoning bylaw sets out examples of typical home occupations. It would be something that Ms. Gray and I will outline in our report as to what are typical home occupations and why they would be allowed to locate in residential areas. And we can certainly obviously take Ms. Dell's site-specific considerations into account when providing that analysis. And we'll get back to you on that.
So then is your response that there is nothing in the zoning bylaw that speaks to this business operating? Because that's what I asked for the section of the zoning bylaw that needs to be amended, which is what the clerk said you'd be looking at. So if you could tell me what section that is and not the end-to-end zoning bylaw. Because I know you've had time to consider it when you looked at this issue and set the fine, etc.
If I may, through you, Mayor Burkett, to Councillor Minning, certainly the home occupation section is in 3.12, and it speaks to specific uses that are not permitted as a home occupation, and one is a veterinary clinic. Due to barking dogs and noise associated with that. So that's why we'll have to look at it further with respect to this specific request.
Okay, and then just a final question is that I am concerned about what the clerk outlined as not being able to commit to getting this back to us on a certain date, and I get that your best efforts will be done, but to me, that we're preventing a business from operating. As far as I'm aware, there have been no bylaw complaints or infraction about this, and I think that the business should be allowed to operate. The fine's been removed until the report comes back so we can strengthen it. I'm very concerned about the length of time that's been suggested it will take to come back.
I think, Councillor Minnings, to Madam Clerk's comments, it has to be ratified at council. So she's looking at our corporate services meeting or at council. So it's only a month away. And I understand and feel for Ms. Dell, but I think we need to go through the process and at least have that staff report in our hands so that we can look at it and make it right. Because I think there's more than just Ms. Dell in our township that are providing the same service, so that we don't have a backlash of other upset residents. Let's do it right. Let's wait for the staff report. It's only 1 month away. It has to be ratified at council.
Well, thank you. Thank you to the mayor. And then if council could direct that it does come back at corporate services this month and to be ratified a month at the March meeting, but that's not what I heard from staff. They said they'll do their best efforts, but council has within their power to make this a priority to come back to us for those 2 meetings.
Thank you. How shall I explain this? I think staff and the fact that Madam Clerk is leaving for a week leaves her very little time, but I think they know it's urgent and they'll do their best to bring it for the March council meeting. And I think based on what Madam Clerk has said, she's going to try her best. Councillor Brennan.
Thank you. Through the mayor. Stephanie, your presentation is very good, and my heart sympathizes with you, but I want to be a little more cautious perhaps than some of my colleagues here on council. I, like many people, have been on the receiving end of barking dogs through the course of the many places I've lived. It is just having a little bylaw to do it tends to be insufficient, fix the problem. And I want to be sure. I don't want to be putting words. First of all, ratification. We're not even close to ratification yet. We need to see the report. I want to see what it says about kennels. I want to see what the possible implications are across the board. And Ms. Dell, you may be a fabulous operator, but there are all kinds of people out there that shouldn't even own a dog, as far as I'm concerned. They're not fit to own dogs. And, all they do is end up really upsetting the neighbors. So I want to see a wholesome report that explains the situation well and then we'll decide whether we ratify or what we do. And I don't know if this licensing is a big deal at the end of the day or not, but if it takes a month, it takes a month. I'm sorry. There's too many other implications. And in that respect, I fully agree with the mayor. Thank you.
So, Ms. Dell, if I may, thank you, Councillor Brennan, well said. So, Ms. Dell, I know that you'll understand there's not only yourself, there's probably other kennels. And yeah, if we hastily make a bylaw, we're going to create a problem. We've done it in the past where we've had to come back and amend the bylaw because we missed something. So this has to be done right. So without that staff report coming back to us and without having council to actually look at what the implications are, I think we need to do that first. Would you like to speak? Go ahead, Estelle.
I agree. It's unfortunate for myself, but I know you would need to do your due diligence on your end. So I appreciate you escalating this matter as much as you can. I'm unsure if what I'm asking for is an exemption for my specific situation. So if you're changing the bylaw, ultimately that's going to affect everyone in the township. If you issue an exemption, that's going to affect me. Anyone else who wanted to offer this sort of service would also have to come to council and request an exemption and go through the same process as me. So I'm unsure if I'm paving the way for everyone who's offering this service or if I'm here just representing myself. So maybe if you could clarify which way this may go.
I can clarify that for you, Ms. Dell. What has happened is you brought this to council's attention. And I think what you've done now is opened a Pandora's box, because I believe in my mind, there are a lot of people like you in our township, not a lot, but I bet you there's a handful. So now it's opened the door where they now are going to have to go through the process. By granting you an exemption today, I can't in good conscience do that. I need to see the staff report. And I need to sit down, as Councillor Brennan has stated, we need to go through it to make sure that we do it right. As I've said, we've hastily made decisions in the past and they've come back and bitten us. So I, sitting in this chair, can't vote in favor of that. I'm sorry. I need to see that staff report, and council needs to look at what staff is saying, and they need to hear also what our input is as well. And then we can make that decision. And I believe that the clerk will have it back in time for March's council meeting. So it's just one more month, and I do feel for you. I'm sorry. Councillor Taylor.
Yes, through the mayor, just to wrap it up, what I first said, this is only up to 4 dogs. I can't see it a big deal, but I'm willing to wait for the report, and hopefully we get this thing back on the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Madam Clerk, do you have a motion?
I do. So the motion reads that the delegation by Ms. Dell from 3719 Agnew Road regarding a request for exemption to bylaw 2020-62 that our kennel licensing requirements be received, and that staff be directed to report back regarding amendments to the canine control bylaw for dog sitting, boarding, and kennel services no later than March 6, 2024 council meeting.
Thank you. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor McIntyre, second by Councillor Taylor. All in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Minis, did you want to say something?
I did, because you had spoken about the exemption, Member Brennan, Chair. Is that something we can put forward also in the motion, to have the exemption pending the staff report?
Madam Clerk?
I leave a motion amendment to council to debate. However, never in Severn's history have, as far as the back as I can find, that an exemption has been granted to the kennel licensing requirements. So it would be rounding an entirely new corner for the township, and the procedural bylaw only allows council to take 3 actions coming out of this, is that they refer for report, information, or budget. So depending on what council's decision on the staff report that comes back will determine whether or not Ms. Dell is approved to proceed with her business. Ms. Dell has already been informed that she's welcome to keep proceeding with her dog walking side of her business and other things in the interim. So
understood. And just subsequent, now I'm confused, because you said an exemption to a kennel licensing, but this doesn't meet the definition of the kennel license, which I've read carefully, which is more than 4 dogs. So I think considering an exemption to this pending the staff report is a motion I'd like to put forward. And if it's voted down, it's voted down. But I think I would like to see that in addition, because the motion, as you read, does not give me the ability to do anything other than wait for the staff report, which
yes. So through you, Mr. Mayor, so in order to consider I'm calling it like an interim exemption, council would need to waive the requirements of the council procedural bylaw, because it is not something that is currently permitted under the procedural bylaw to do anything other than just refer the matter for a staff report. So you have I'm going to say the first motion that would be to refer the matter for a staff report, and then if council wants to consider an exemption right now, in the interim until the report comes back, then they would need to waive the requirements of the council procedural bylaw before they could even consider such a motion. So,
Madam Clerk, are we able to do that at council where we have presentations, as you stated, it tells us what we can or can't do. So to reverse the procedural bylaw, we can do this at a council meeting?
that is within council's purview at any choice and time to waive the requirements of the council's procedural bylaw. They're council's rules, they can waive them. That said, I would not be, as your clerk, in my professional opinion, I would not be waiving that. There's a reason why we refer stuff to staff report before council renders a decision, is so that you have all the information before making that decision.
So I'm going to have Madam CAO speak, please. I'm a little confused.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, the clerk covered it well. I was just going to say there's a reason why you set your procedural bylaw the way you did, so that you're not making decisions without all the information. You've heard the residents' case, but you haven't heard the other side. So that's why you do it, so that you get time to get all the information. There's also nothing in the kennel bylaw that provides for an exemption. So you'd be going outside of both the procedural bylaw and the kennel bylaw to make an exemption.
Correct. Deputy Mayor Cox.
Sorry, I agree with what was just said. I was just going to say, let's call the vote, please.
Okay, members of council, do you need the motion read again? Okay, Madam Clerk, could you read the motion again, please?
Certainly. So the current motion reads that the delegation by Ms. Dell, 3719 Agnew Road, regarding a request for exemption to bylaw 2020-62 kennel licensing requirements be received, and the staff be directed to report back regarding amendments to the canine control bylaw for dog sitting, boarding, and kennel services no later than the March 6, 2024 council meeting.
And I know it was moved by Councillor McIntyre and second by Councillor Taylor. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on, consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that council would like to have removed?
Thank you, Ms. Dell.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Dell.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You as well. Seeing no items, Madam Clerk, do you have a motion?
Okay. The motion reads that the agenda be adopted, including consent items as circulated.
Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Jansen. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Moving on to G3, reports from officials for information. Oh, sorry, G2, correspondence. G2-1, Severn Sound Environmental Association third quarter 2023 highlights. Any discussion?
I believe, Your Worship, you already dealt with that under the consent list, so it's been
very much
received already.
We'll move on to reports from officials. Administration report number A24-0006, Planning and Development Committee, hybrid meetings from council chambers. Would you like to speak to this, Madam Clerk?
I can, Your Worship. It's pretty self-explanatory, I think. So if some members were unable to attend in person, that remains fine. You would be up on the screen in chambers and you would still appear in the Zoom feed. Members of the public would continue to be able to participate via Zoom as well as presenters. However, given that we are now in the post-COVID era, most municipalities in particular have returned back to in person, at least the opportunity for members of the public to participate in person. And the majority of council members have been in the office on a regular basis for these meetings. And so just for a variety of different factors, staff are bringing this forward. It would take effect in March because we need time to adjust planning notices, which have already gone out for the February Planning and Development Committee meeting. So it would take effect in March. Because we made the changes last year to the council procedural bylaw to permit the corporate services hybrid committee meetings, there's no procedural bylaw amendment required to bring this into effect. So
thank you. Deputy Mayor Cox.
Yeah, through the chair to the clerk. So are we just talking about the planning meeting, or is it going to be hybrid for the council too? So
just planning.
Just planning?
Just planning. It would be planning and corporate services then. It's basically be our big committees would be back at hybrid, and then council would still be just on Zoom.
And if a member couldn't make it, they could come in and Zoom in.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify. Thanks.
Yep, the ability to participate in person or via Zoom is still there.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk, do you have a motion?
Certainly. The motion reads that Administration Report number A24-006 dated February 7th, 2024 regarding Planning and Development Committee hybrid meetings from council chambers be received, and that Planning and Development Committee meetings be held in a hybrid format commencing with the March 20th, 2023 meeting.
Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Cox, second by Councillor Minnings. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Moving on to new business, Coldwater Public School General Program Grant Application.
So we received this grant application from the school. The total amount, having worked with recreation, that they'd be looking to have provided for by way of a grant is $248.05, including HST. So,
Deputy Mayor Cox.
I think this is great. They used to do it all the time before, and all we did was waive fees, and this clears it up, and I think it's a good idea for the kids. Thank you.
Any further comments? Madam Clerk, do you have a motion?
Motion reads that a grant for the Coldwater Public School in the amount of $245.05 for skating be approved.
Moved by Councillor Jansen, second by Deputy Mayor Cox. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. General bylaws, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Motion reads that bylaws number 2024-01 through 2024-07 be and are hereby read a first, second, third time and finally passed.
Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by, Councillor McIntyre, do you want to speak?
Yes, please. Through the chair. I just wondering, the Steve Jeremy was appointed. Was there a process that we missed, or was there something that the HR or the staff looked at? Or, I mean, I never heard Steve Jeremy's name until it came up on part of the agenda. So was he appointed, or was he just hired, or how did that all work, please?
Madam CAO.
He was hired through a process. It's just a requirement to be a building official that you be appointed by council. So he's been with us the last month or so. But yeah, open process.
Thank you very much.
Any further comments? Okay, mover and a seconder, please. Forget who. Moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Jansen. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Any announcements? No closed session. Confirmation bylaw, Madam Clerk.
Certainly. The motion reads that bylaw number 2024-08 be and is hereby read a first, second, third time and finally passed.
Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Jansen, second by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Adjournment. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor McIntyre, second by Councillor Minnings. All in favor? That is carried. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you very much.